Welcome to the MadTrio podcast. This week we have the California Pariah, Jonathan Charny, James, the Fattman Stevens, and Rob, the old guy.
You're listening to the Rob Charny Show.
Yeah, I'm here.
And welcome to our technological nightmare as I try to get this Windows 11 POS to actually work for me.
Hey, it works.
I should have never updated this computer because holy shit, this computer's been glitchy since I updated it.
Because you bought it. I don't know. Because
we have the same brand, so that's
mind.
not.
I know. I can't diss the brands. And since they're not sponsoring us, I'm not going to give them a plug.
So, longtime ABBA guitarist. Oops, hold on. We're going to start out bringing out the dead. I'm so frazzled, I forgot the gimmick. Restart. We're bringing out the dead, just memorializing, loving, showing a little love to the people who've passed. And we just think you should know about it. Longtime ABBA guitarist Lassie, L-A-S-S-E Wellander dies of cancer. MASH nurse Abel dies at 84 years old. Judy Farrell. And a man who I watched as a child, Bob Butch Miller of the Bushwhackers, WWE fame, passed away. Also, if you got to see him beforehand, before their WWE run, they were named as the Sheep Herders, I guess. Legendary tag team wrestling. I'm kind of sad to hear he passed away. He was always a favorite. And to bring this back up, if my computer decides not to really screw with me, we talked about this last episode. Afro Man taunts police who sued him. Don't fuck with me, or I'll rap about you. And this is by Jezebel.com. I thought they were a big, bad, tough cops, and come to find out my raps hurt their feelings and humiliated them, said the artist, told Vice last week with a smile. And this is from April 3rd. If you're not unfamiliar with this, apparently they raided his compound, gotten a bunch of videos. He put their images in a rap video, and all three or four cops sued him because they used their footage to humiliate him. And
they're public servants.
I still haven't found out the answer if the cops break into your house legally or not legally. Do you have the right to do whatever your footage? Because there's no right to privacy once you enter somebody's property. And I'm kind of curious on that.
I think it's his property. And I'm talking about the videos.
No,
the videos are his property.
Yeah, and unless they get the video via a search warrant, then I'm not quite sure how that handles. But since they didn't get it, and I don't know how you miss security cameras as cops. Unless they're like secretly hidden and really camouflaged, they're a little obvious.
Yeah, I think it's just it's not like he's got nanny cams, I'm sure. But
in an interview with Vlad TV in January, Afro Man admitted that the raid had been a boon to his creativity. When they kicked down the door, they made me relevant again. Interesting material, he said. In an older Vice interview, also from January, he described the pro-social motivation for turning the raid into art. From what I understand, these sheriff's officers in this county have been doing people dirty for a very long time and getting away with it. But nobody has publicity or the eyeballs that I can put on them like me.
So, which county is he in?
I do not remember. And it doesn't... here we go. So, Adams County Sheriff's Office. I don't see the state, though. I just think this whole thing is funny. It was just like when the New York Police Department defended their 10-pound trigger pull. It's just funny.
Yeah.
Safety first. There is something United States that we need to look out for is the TikTok ban bill. According to Ars Technica, TikTok ban bill is so...
TikTok.
I said TikTok. It's not my fault. You can't hear.
You said TikTok.
No, I said TikTok.
You did say TikTok.
Nah.
You did, Jonathan. TikTok. Okay, go ahead.
TikTok ban bill is so broad it could apply to nearly any type of tech product. By the way, home of the brave and the free. We may have brave people. We don't have free
they just
people.
want to control everything. What a great way of sliming that right in. Let's go ahead and say we're going to ban TikTok, but let's make sure that we can ban anything we want. And that's what they're going to do.
By the way, I actually...
Problem is, that sounds like China.
China actually... Somebody actually said China's. We're just upset because China is a part of owner of a social media company, and like that's a little too on the nose. So the leading TikTok ban candidate is the Restrict Act, or the restricting the emergence of security threats that risk information communication technology act. By the way, I'm surprised they didn't throw the fucking children. Anytime they ban something, it's always the kids, even if kids don't even know what the fucking product is.
I'm sure it's in there. I'm sure there's something about children in there.
Let's see. So and the EFF says the ban could actually criminalize some VPN use.
Oh, great.
A lot of these bans, they've been trying to do this for years, where they actually try to get civilians not to be able to use cryptography because they can actually...
Oh, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. That and VPNs and all, heaven forbid we have privacy in this country.
The bill authorizes the Department of Commerce to impose, to impose mitigation measures without any restrictions on what those measures might be. Couple that with vague enforcement provisions that grant powers to broadly punish any person who evades these undefined mitigation measures, and the result is a law that can be read as criminalizing common practices like using VPN to get a prohibited app, sideload installations, or using an app that will lawfully downloaded somewhere else. By the way,
the VPN is probably downloading unlawful apps.
By the way, this isn't a Republican and Democrat thing. This is an American thing. If you're up there saying...
That's what they're saying, right? That's the whole idea behind it. If you use a VPN, you're doing something illegal.
Well, because...
You're using it on Tor to do the dark web thingy.
Well, there's a lot of people, if you follow us a little bit, is saying, oh, the Republicans want to do this. And some talking heads say, oh, the Democrats want to do this. This is American thing. This is a freedom thing. We should be allowed to do whatever we want. I get if you're having a government phone, you shouldn't have TikTok. I'm for the fact if you have a government phone, you shouldn't have any social media. Matter of fact, the only thing you should have is text and a secure email and a phone, of course.
I don't know. I think the government just needs to back the fuck off.
That's
where I'm at. But that's never going to happen. We've already given them too much too much of our rights. They're not going to give any of that back. Once you give it to them, you're done and over with.
This goes kind of in a bit of a rant that's been pissing me off lately. Is I've always believed growing up that as Americans, you sign a social compact. A social compact is basically, it's something that we as a society, non-legally, we agree with. Mom pie, apple pie, freedom, blah, blah, blah. That's a social compact. And I always thought as an American, I agreed with do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting children, animals, or other people. Do whatever the fuck you want. I may not like it, but I'll support your right to do it. But it seems like today that everybody is up in arms about what other fucking people do with themselves or their lives. I just don't get it. I'm confused why people care who you date, who you talk to, what's between your legs, what car you drive. And it's weird because both sides politically are bashing each other in the heads with shit that just doesn't matter. Instead, we have China, Russia. We have a massive governmental leak of DOD documents. I don't know. I don't get modern society, why people care what the fuck other people do so much.
I think the more people you pack into an area, let's look way back when. You look at cities before, we ended up, with our population boom. Most of that was going on in the cities. You move out to the country, your neighbor was like, miles away and you didn't really see them. They could do whatever the hell they want. They could bury the bodies and you wouldn't even know. They could have sex with their cousin, their uncle, whatever. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't care unless gossip happened. And how do you get gossip? You live close to people. You get cities close to people. They gossip. They force their opinions on you, and it formulates changes your formulation of your own opinion. So I think that's really what it is. You have too many damn people. Too many damn people too close together. And people, when they get together like that, they stop minding their own business and stick their nose in other people's business.
I'm just confused about all of this. And I get with some of it, like, say, the trans thing, with the latest fucking thing with that beer company that I don't remember the name of.
Budweiser?
Yeah, I just don't care why people care. I mean, I don't like beer, and Budweiser tastes like piss anyways. So much for that sponsorship. I want like Pabst Blue Ribbon. That's who I want to sponsor me. A quality beer. I don't know. I don't get why people care so much. Yeah. It just confuses me.
I don't care. I mean, I see this stupid can. I'm like, I don't care. And why are people even giving a shit? Drink your damn beer or don't drink your damn beer.
By the way, the first thing I saw when I saw the ad and whatnot, I'm like, hey, good for her. She gets a payday. Fuck. That's all I want. That's why I work. That's why I work. That's why I do the podcast. It's like, good for you. Make a little money. Be happy. I don't know. And all of it without respect. Like, everybody now has like little respect, and it's something we've been talking a lot on the internet, but on the show. But god damn, people are fucking cranky and mean these days.
Yeah.
It was all the pandemic's fault.
That didn't help anything.
It sure didn't.
So have you guys heard of the Chernobyl show on HBO?
Chernobyl show.
There's
radioactive footage.
So there's a couple different ones. There's one that's a straight documentary on HBO. And then there's one that's a dramatized series of what happened at Chernobyl and how the events took their course and how they unfolded, how Russia handled it. And it's strictly from the Russian side. And I watched it, and it painted everything that happened in a very interesting light. I highly doubt that Russia put any, I highly doubt Russia put their stamp of approval on it, because it seems like a lot of the behind the scenes things that happen were leaked out. And according to scientists, he's the one that put everything in writing and in audio tapes to tell what actually happened, not the Russian propaganda side. And that's what got out to the scientific community in Russia and what this whole thing is based on.
Okay.
It's really interesting show. If you have some time to watch it, it is worth a watch. They got some really good name actors in it. But so I watched it, and then I come across this article about that the dogs of Chernobyl are experiencing rapid evolution.
Yeah, I read the article. Yep.
Now, the stupid thing about the article is it doesn't really go into full detail of what that is. They just kind of say that they're seeing that they're basically evolving quickly.
So it's at the I'm sorry guys for doing that. It's at the DNA level.
Yeah.
They have been comparing it, doing studies at the DNA level. They're seeing evolution as far as some changes in the structures of DNA.
So you're saying all those 1950 horror movies could be true, or we're going to see a 30-foot dog attack Russia?
Well, if it takes 200 years, maybe.
Yeah, I was trying to see what was going on with it, and the interesting thing about finding this out. So, in that Chernobyl series, they actually go into the fact that they got troops to go through the surrounding areas around Chernobyl that would be affected by the radiation. They hired troops to go out there, gave them, I think it was like an extra 400, I don't know why I'm drawing a break, rubles?
Rubles.
Yeah, I think that's their currency. 400 a year, an extra 400 a year, to go into these areas and kill every single animal they could find. So these dogs aren't necessarily the ones that were initially there. They just kind of migrated in the area and got affected by the radiation, bred. And there might be some that, the soldiers missed. I'm sure there are, but yeah, they went in and killed all the animals that they could find.
Well, that actually makes sense because it's not the ones that initially got hit with the radiation. It's once the radiation settled, they came in and ate everything. Because I know they found out they found mushrooms in the dome or wherever in Chernobyl that actually eats the radiation. I do know the elephant foot, they say, which is like which is where the major part of they call it the major part of the radiation is still massively radioactive. Like they have robots that go in there and they melt instantaneously.
It's going to be radioactive for like another 1,000 years. So, Rob, did the article that you read actually say what? They just say DNA for me. It just says like it's they analyzed the DNA of 302 feral dogs living near the power plant compared to those living over 10 miles away and found remarkable differences.
Right.
They did not go into
So apparently,
details of what it is.
Yeah, and not that I remember reading in this article, and I read it a little while ago, but it's something to do in the actual structure, the DNA structure itself, that they expect to see the change after 200, 300 years, that kind of thing, in which they're seeing it accelerated now. And it had something to do with that.
So instead of monkeys, we're going to have dogs.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably cats, rats.
Yeah, rats.
Other
God.
Animals out there that they're going to find that evolved at an interesting rate. There's going to be laser-eyed squirrels coming out of there.
Hey, so I think I saw this anime once.
Yeah,
You probably did.
a three-eyed fish. So on that same theme, so China is doing some interesting experiments with tardigrades. They are taking tardigrades and they're splicing them with human embryonic stem cells.
Oh, this never goes well.
And testing it with X-ray radiation to see how it handles it. They're trying to come up with some type of ability to put into their soldiers to have them, hold up against radiation better. This sounds like a great idea, right?
Nothing can go wrong with that.
How come every time you guys talk about science, it seems like something I saw in a 1970s, 1980s post-apocalyptic movie?
I went over this last time. It's all those sci-fi movies from the 50s and 60s and even into the 80s and 90s, all those crazy sci-fi ones, all those people that were watching those are all grown adults that got into science, and they're like, can we make this work? And they're trying.
This better not end up in some famous actor running around in a red loincloth shooting people.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to.
It's all this stuff is horrible. It's just like, how you hear they're still looking into the Wuhan lab leak theory, and the more they talk about the lab, it's just like nobody shut them down. It's like this is all horrible.
Well, I mean, you got to leave China to come up with something like this because I mean nobody's gonna fund that, openly in the U.S. I mean, I'm not saying that there's no scientist in the U.S. that's, in a Unabomber bunker somewhere trying this crap,
Yeah.
So,
but, they're probably out there. I'm sure there are.
So I'm going to add to the post-apocalyptic movie thing. You've all heard of Typhoid Mary, right? Well, apparently There is a tuberculosis woman. She has TB in Tacoma, Washington. And the woman has, let's see, a Tacoma, Washington woman who has refused court-ordered tubular TB therapy treatment for over a year is evading arrest and has reportedly taken public transportation to go to a casino while on the lam.
Huh.
The Tacoma...
What's her name? 'Cause I'm naming her TB Susie.
It does not say. It just says the woman. By the way, if she's this big of a health risk, release her name. Give me her address. I mean, by the way, the consumption is fucking...
Tessie.
Yeah.
TB Tessie.
The consumption is deadly. I don't understand why they're being so polite about it.
Well, I mean, if you look at Typhoid Mary, and if you look at her story, it's pretty crazy. Because I mean,
it is pretty crazy.
True.
They really tried to do that with her. I mean, and the crazy thing about her is she did not believe in hand washing at all. None. She would literally go take a crap, change her monthly nightie, and then go make dinner without washing her hands. I don't think she actually believed in water.
She's really special, wasn't she?
Yeah, and I mean, now, granted that even doctors at this time had just learned about hand washing before they performed surgery.
Yeah, it's true. Look it up. It's kind of like, huh?
Yeah,
no, it's true.
Doctors that would perform surgery that weren't convinced that hand washing prevented infections. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But anyway, so I mean, that was the time period that it was. But I mean, it's pretty gross if you really look into it.
Well, she was. There are a couple of things about her that, if you've read the story a little bit more on, also, she didn't really care about anybody else either. However, at the same time we banned her from cooking and housekeeping, that was what she was doing to make a living to feed herself. We didn't give her anything to help her live. So the woman was saying, hey, look, I still have to live, but maybe she could have found something different, like sewing.
Well, I mean, she could have listened to the people that were saying, go wash your hands.
Well, so
take a shower.
Tubular sclerosis is, and I know it said right, is potentially a life-threatening bacterial infection caused by, let's see if we can get this to work,
Mycobacterium tuberculosis.
It spreads through...
Do that. Can you do that on people's names?
Good job,
Mycobacterium tuberculosis.
I don't know how you changed your voice, but good job.
Do you believe in magic? It spreads through the air when an infected person coughs, sneezes, spits, or launches bacterial cells around them. Risk of transmission is high during prolonged contact with an infected person, but inhaling just a few bacterial cells is enough to cause infection. By the way, it's just like mono. Somebody can cough 30 feet from you and you can still get it.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't get, who's the person that says, oh, I got TB, I'll be safe? Am I the only history buff here that understands the stupidity of this statement?
Well, it's not even that. I think it's, it could be that whole carryover from COVID that she feels like that. She's like, okay, this is not as big of a deal. It's not, most of us, quite a few of us survived COVID. Some of us got it.
I did, finally.
And that's probably where she's at, is like, okay, they're just over exaggerating when it's something that was like running rampant like the Black Plague, and she does know a concept of history. Did they even give her age? Like, how old is this person?
It did not say. Like, literally, this article in Ars Technica, they did not say anything. They just say it. This woman, this. It's like, I don't understand. Oh.
Yeah, I think.
Let's see. Nope, did not. I thought it did. It just says, but in the days following the casino trip, the woman did not appear to be home. The surveillance officer reported, meanwhile, the woman's relatives have been unresponsive to authority attempts to contact the woman, and her court-appointed monitor said she has not been able to meet her. Which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if I'm not mistaken, the laws that are in place in the United States, her and her family can go to jail for a considerable amount of time for doing this, depending on how they view this, up into including an act of terrorism. And no, I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I'm looking to see. I just found it. So I think we just need to stay out of Pierce County. That's Washington State. If you people are anywhere around there,
Run, hide. No.
Oh wow! This is the third case in 20 years where the health department has sought a court order to detain somebody who is potentially contagious and refusing to seek treatment of tuberculosis.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're saying that this is not highly uncommon that this has happened.
Isn't it more worrisome because not as many people are getting TB vaccinations?
Well, hold on. This is the interesting thing. The Tacoma Pierce County Health Department sees about 20 cases of active tuberculosis a year.
What? Wow.
That's in this article. So I think I'll need to just stay the hell out of Tacoma Pierce County.
It's in the water.
That sounds like a good area.
It's the water. It's all the water there.
I don't know. I stay out of Flint, Michigan, and Tacoma, Pierce, Tacoma, Washington area.
So I'm trying to figure out, treatment. If you've had a latent TB infection, your healthcare provider may begin drug treatments. This is especially true for people with HIV. Let's see, taking all drugs. Most common TB, if you have latent TB, you may need to take one or two types of drugs. Active TB requires taking several drugs. Common medications are ice, a bunch of drugs I can't pronounce. So there are. I am curious though. I wonder if they're all antibiotics, because I know they're starting to run into strains of this stuff that are that can't. They just ran in a case of. This is a great show. My memory. That disease that paralyzes people, polio. They're running into polio virus that's not affected by antibiotics in Africa.
Well,
and why always in Africa? I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, there's new strains of Ebola that's always popping up in Africa all the time.
Well, you would think that would happen here where we vaccinate ourselves more often. Like, I just actually got my TB vaccine not that long ago.
Oh.
And the great thing is that I found that I won't go into which insurance I have, but they decided that they weren't going to pay for that one, so I have to go and get that. I have to pay for that one myself. But
what?
Yeah, that's our lovely government that decided not to do that. I won't say which one, but our lovely government decided that a TB vaccine is not important enough to pay for, or even assist in paying for.
Okay.
You know, pay for not only the vaccine, but also the administrative cost of the vaccine. So I had to pay for them giving it to me too.
You just brought up an interesting question that I didn't think of. I am wondering how many of the people who've had TB, at least in the United States, if it's a matter of social economic. Like it cannot necessarily be a cheap shot to get.
God, I believe it used to be one of those things that was just required and you got it. And
I'm trying to think. I think for me, with the cost of them giving it to me, was around just over $200.
Wow! Oh my God, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of people that wouldn't spend that, so I can understand it being a problem.
I didn't know that it wasn't going to be covered when I got it.
Right, and then it's too late at that point.
One of those that I look at it as it's not a bad one to get.
Right.
How often do you have to get it? Because I'm almost positive I got it when I was a Ute, but I don't know.
I think it's a 5 or 10 year shot. I'll have to look that up, but I think it's like something like that. I think it's a 5 year. It might be a 10 year.
Oh, wow. I wonder what the chances of actually getting TB are. Because according to this, tuberculosis is one of the top infectious disease killers in the world, causing 1.6 million deaths in 2021, according to the WHO. In the U.S., there were 7,882 TB cases in 2021 and 600 TB-related deaths in 2020.
Well, out of 300 million, it's a pretty low number. Statistically, it's
almost nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, so depending on the one you get, John, is 5 to 15 years.
Wow.
So most of them are 15 years. But, yeah. So anyways, so I should be good for a while.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so it's, and it's mostly they give it to you if you travel, but it's one of those that I prefer to not get that.
Yeah, I would prefer not to as well.
So
not pleasant.
Well, do you know what you should get? And it's not it is infectious, but because you'll love it, you need it. Our sponsor. Today's show is brought to you by Audacity, the unforgettable party game for mischievous people. The game where dignity is overrated. Make sure you go to oddassity.com or selected stores. Make sure you use MadTrio, all caps, all one word, for 10% off your final order. Make sure you tell Miss Audacity herself that the MadTrio sent you. Do you want to keep up to date with the maddest of the mad at the MadTrio podcast? Make sure you go to themadtrio.com or check out our social media feeds on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And
so I've got a question for you guys.
All right.
So when let's say you're an actor or you're known for a role, at which point should you consider retiring?
When they stop paying you.
Okay.
John,
I'm curious what you think before I mention what brought this up.
I would say up until the point you feel that you cannot do whatever role that is, or you cannot.
Let's say it's a high action role.
I think the point where you feel you cannot do it, or it cannot be worked around your limitations.
Let me ask it this way. Would either one of you want to see an 80-year-old James Bond?
Why not? Look how crafty.
It depends on how you do it, to be honest. Is this a retired?
You have to rely on physical activity. You would just think about it.
Well,
hold on. Let's say that.
Hey, that's coming from an old guy. Okay, James?
Okay.
Say that.
The reason why I mentioned this is Harrison Ford, 79 years old, going to be 80 this year, is doing another Indiana Jones.
Yeah, okay, well.
See, that's different to me, because I could see like a James Bond who's 80, he's retired, and I think you could come up with a decent story that revolves around an old spy, and an 80-year-old Indiana Jones. That's not the character. I don't know how you would do it and make it realistic. But, of course, the last one had a nuclear fridge.
So the reason why I bring this up, and I could see... So, not Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Crystal Skull?
No. The Last Crusade. He had his dad played by Sean Connery. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now, his dad was played by Sean Connery as an old archaeologist, kind of like Indy. if he plays something like that, I could see it. I could see it working better than him out there with his bullwhip running from, big boulders and death traps.
Well, that's why they introduced Shia LaBeouf's character, but it just never worked out.
Well,
because the movie sucked.
There's another young actor with top billing with him. I'd have to look it up to give you the actual name of him. But yeah, I kind of look at it. My joke is it's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and my joke is it's Indiana Jones and the Walker is my destiny.
Yeah, the geriatric crusade. My problem is the fact that I don't think you could do Indiana Jones in a more modern story device, because taking place in the time it did was perfect. I don't think the magic works.
So he's with Boyd Holbrook, and I've seen him in a few different things. He's not a bad actor, but they don't really, I haven't seen the trailers for him. I haven't watched the trailers to see if he's supposed to be who he's supposed to be. But I mean, you got Mads Mikkelsen, Antonio Banderas. You got a lot of really top billed actors in there with him. But I look at it and then I think of what John brings up is the Crystal Skull, and I'm like, yeah, that went over, as a friend of mine used to say, like a turd in the punch bowl.
Yeah,
and I don't even think you could do his father, the father type role, because I think it's been done. It would be hacky at this point. I don't know how you would do it. Like the old spy, the James Bond totally makes sense. This one, yeah, there's no way that I can think of that it's going to be remotely good.
And I swear that the Indiana Jones name, whichever studio owns those rights right now, I'm
Disney,
Sony,
Disney. It's a Disney product.
They're just using Harrison Ford as a name grab.
They have promised this is the last one, but the question is, what do they mean? Last live action?
I don't know. I'm just, I watched 1923. Harrison Ford is in that.
Mm-hmm. And
I mean, he's still a great actor. He still plays the tough guy really well, but I mean, in 1923, he plays an old tough guy that's on his way out. I'm thinking he's going to play the same role in this. I just, I mean, there's only so much you can do. I appreciate the guy. I mean, I love all the roles that he's done. I mean, I'm sure I could find one or two that is out there that I'm not, well, I mean, if we want to talk about the Star Wars Christmas special, that's a whole other ballgame.
So, question.
What?
I'm thinking about this, and I don't think this would work, but instead of being an action movie, which is all indie movies have an action movie, if they play this more as a drama with action, maybe they could do it depending on the devices they told the story. If they're using Indiana Jones doing the same basic shtick, it's going to be ridiculous. But if they figure out how to use the drama aspect of it, I think they could pull it off. But from the bits and pieces I've seen, I'm not convinced.
This one being the longest Indiana Jones movie yet. So we're looking at something that's 2.5 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's my idea. I think what they ought to do is kind of like a Charlie's Angel things. This could be Indies Angels, and you never actually see them. You just hear them, and it'll all be good.
And between his tapioca breaks.
And let's see. I'm trying to see what the run times are.
I got a pop.
I'm getting snarky here.
Yeah, so most of the Indiana Jones movies are over 2 hours. So we're looking at this one being probably 2.5 hours.
Hey, you're looking at an 80-year-old or almost 80-year-old that still flies an airplane.
True.
Well, don't get me wrong. I'm not crapping. I'm not crapping on him. I'm more crapping on the fact this is the guy in The Last Crusade who was punching Nazis on the back of a tank and taking massive abuses. I just don't see how they're going to have that character and be realistic. I mean, that's why they had the Shia LaBeouf is to supposedly be able to handle some of that. And that movie was just awful.
You know, and didn't they kind of pull that one off as Indiana Jones is retired and comes out of retirement?
Yeah.
I mean, are they sneaking him out of the nursing home?
At this point, shouldn't he be dead by the massive amount of radiation he took in the fourth one?
True. I don't know. Well, they might have preserved him.
And
it probably changed his DNA. And he's fine now. See? Got his DNA's changed. He's more evolved. He's going to live longer.
So if they,
that's what it is.
So I guess an additional question: if they took, instead of being an old Indiana Jones, if they did another young Indiana Jones type of thing with a different actor, do you think people would accept that?
No,
because they did it back in the day, back when we were children and kids, and I thought it was a great series, but because I just want something different.
Maybe they'll just use AI on him, and
that's probably what they're going to do. I don't see how.
I mean, they were going to run that with River Phoenix, but he passed away.
That's true.
So I don't see them going that route. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I just look at them like, I like you, Harrison Ford, but you should say no. I mean, how much money did they offer him? And how much money does he think he can spend in what time he has left?
So this reminds me of something that Robert Zemeckis, the guy I think who owns the rights to Back to the Future, and I could be wrong on that. The guy who owns the rights basically said, as long as he's alive, there will never be another Back to the Future movie, and he basically said, I'm trying to see if I can make that permanent. And I've heard multiple people tell things about how bookending a series is good, and I don't understand why they couldn't left it alone with as a trilogy. Even with Aliens had a great beginning, middle, and end. I don't understand why they need to do another one. And the other thing is, why can't they make an Indiana Jones movie in the same universe, but just a different character? Be more creative instead of bringing in an 80-year-old.
I don't know. Yeah, I was looking to see how many kids he has. He has one kid. I'm like, are you doing it so that person, so your kid never has to work again? I think that's already happened. I just don't know the exorbitant amount of money that he took for this. Like, what's the point?
Probably because he could. It's he's obviously winding down his career. It's probably like maybe he wanted to put the final. Maybe the last one was so bad he wanted to put a bookend onto it, and hopefully he thought this one was good.
I mean, it used to be that Temple of Doom was the one you don't really talk about. Now it's Crystal Skull. Maybe that's it.
Some people have a hard time letting go, plain and simple, and then some people don't. They're plenty of actors that have gone along. They've gone to their career to a certain point. They felt they've made enough money and whatever else it may be, and hey, no problem, I can let go and move along. Then there's some, maybe like Harrison Ford, that it simply can't let go. Maybe it's still a drive in him. Maybe it's ego. Maybe it's money. Maybe there could be a number of different reasons why he felt it's necessary to sign up again. And I really thought, you'd have to go back and read it, but I really thought the last movie, he came out and said, that's it. I'm done. Final. Never going to do another one. Don't ask. And so it's a little like...
Well, maybe it was like Ghostbusters 3. Maybe it was such a good script and such a good idea that he's just like, I can't say no to this.
Well, I certainly hope it may be that.
I hope.
Versus all the other options. But I still, at this point, is... So at some point, let the younger people coming up take over. So the question is writing an issue, or are we just not getting writers anymore that is creative enough to keep writing new stories. I mean, why do we keep regurgitating, variations on a theme of the same kind of movies? At some point, come on, people, let's get some new stuff going. I mean, I personally feel that Indiana Jones has run its course. And
I think it has to.
Maybe
I think it's time to move on.
You bring up an interesting point, and I've said this a bunch of times. Maybe it's because Hollywood at this point wants guarantees. Like, since there's no Hollywood video and movie video stores don't exist, there's no guarantee of income. So now they don't want to risk anything, and now every movie has to cost like $500 million. That maybe they want a guarantee, so they're not going to do a movie. Like a $90 million movie, because they're gonna, it's the only thing I could think of, because every movie now is just ridiculous.
What you bring up is a very good point. I think a lot of these studios are risk adverse, and they're kind of going, hey, we just can't risk this kind of money. We can't step out on a ledge and try some new stuff. Which, if you look at it, virtually every movie that's out that's been famous risk at some point, right? And all of a sudden now these studios are saying, hey, we don't want to do that. We don't want to risk the money. It's got to be a sure thing. I don't know.
But to
tell you what, to a certain degree, it seems like an awful lot of things are getting just flat ass boring. But then again, now I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go. Yeah. So tomorrow I'm going to go see the latest John Wick.
Okay.
Because I like John Wick and I like that whole thing. So the question is now, and this is going to be the longest John Wick ever, is this movie as good as all the others? From the trailers, it looks like it, but we'll see. I'll let you know.
The thing with Indiana Jones is I want to see it in theater, but because I'm expecting a Troma movie. Legitimately, because the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was so close to a Troma movie, they could have put Troma Presents and everybody would have bought it. It was so awful.
Yeah, I don't see this one being good at all. I see it being kind of like I was saying, is it's the 80-year-old Harrison Ford trying to play Indiana Jones with backup characters, because I don't see anybody. I can see Mads Mikkelsen being a good bad guy. Maybe Antonio Banderas is also playing a bad guy. They'll be good bad guys, but as far as Indiana's cohort, everyone's going to be expecting Harrison Ford to play Indiana. There's not going to be somebody that's going to come along and match him.
God, there was a movie, I don't remember what it was. It was about an elderly Sherlock Holmes. I think it was starring the guy who from the Lord of the Rings. And it was an amazing movie, but because they framed it right. I'm still hoping they frame this right. I just don't see it.
I don't see it either. I see it being a crappy movie.
Yeah.
But the old guy does also makes me think of, like, I have a bunch of movies from the 50s and 60s. It's about 40s, 50s, and 60s are probably my favorite time period besides the 80s. Maybe it's time to start rebooting movies that nobody has ever heard of unless you're a movie geek. Like, let's do another Grey Lady Down, which is a movie I just purchased, like I can't wait to see, which is a movie from the 70s. I think they just need originality, but I think that's asking a lot from Hollywood these days.
Well, the sad part is how many great scripts have been written out there that never go anyplace, that nobody's willing to give it a chance to. There may be all kinds of things already written, already out there, ideas all ready to go, and they don't get a chance.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm always going to do shout out to our friends over at Shunk Films. Support independent filmmakers, whatever the length, how little, how long. If you want to see original content, let's try to get these people out there in eyes to see, because these movies nowadays are so awful. Like, I don't remember the last movie I was actually in the theater in, because all the trailers are awful. I don't like Marvel movies at this point. I refuse to see them.
I think the last one I went to go see in theater was the first, what's it called? Live action Sonic, and that was because my son wanted to go. So that was the last movie I actually went and saw in theater.
Yeah.
There is a Dungeons and Dragons movie I want to see, mainly because every Dungeons and Dragons movies I've seen have been bad, but they're entertaining. I want to see that. And I heard from a friend of mine it was good. So
as long as there's no Wayans brother in it, it should be okay.
Or the kid who played Jimmy Olsen on a 90s Superman.
The thing that irritates me the most about going into the movies is seeing a bad movie for $15.
Oh, yeah.
Or $20 now that's a movie. That's what irritates me the most. It's like you pay that kind of money and it's just like tomorrow for me it's Senior Tuesday, so I get in for $5. Hey. Bucks. So,
that's one of the reasons I think cinema is having problems with movie theaters closing down, because everybody has this high definition in their home. They're competing. The problem is the price is just ridiculous.
Yeah, and they're not competing at value for value.
No,
not even. See the same movie for $20 a ticket at a movie theater, or $4.99. They'll stream it, right?
Oh,
whatever it may be. If you can't wait. And you've got to see it right away.
By the way, if there's anybody out there who actually owns a theater, if you want to get my money, at this point, show classic films. I want to see Casablanca in the theaters. I want to see, because that's the only time, really, you're going to get my big ass into a movie theater.
It used to be the case where independent movie theaters would do that. They would play all kinds of, old movies. Yeah, they would find... Yeah, they would find all kinds of things. Rocky Picture Horror Show is still playing in many places 25 years later, 30 years later, I think now. You can still attract people. You can still get, butts and seats, and by doing certain things. So I know the big Regals and AMC's, that world. Yeah, all right, that'll never happen. But the small local theaters, there's all kinds of opportunities to do.
I did see the 10 Commandments in one of the local Regal theaters 4 or 5 years ago, and it was literally like a bucket list item for me.
I can say you saw it.
Yeah, but I've seen it so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're wrapping up. If you have any opinions of anything you said, please get a hold of us on our social media feeds. For the California Pariah, for the Fat Man, the Old Guy, and the few hosts that aren't here today, as always, thank you for listening.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.